Hello, welcome back to the Road to Episode 8, my ongoing series where I chart the road to the release of Star Wars Episode 8 in December 2017, and today is finally, after 2 months of promising it, my video, my 20 reasons video why Rey is Luke Skywalker's daughter. Now in this video I will refer to her as Luke's daughter because that's just my belief, so just so you know, I will be saying Luke is her father throughout the video, more than likely. And I just want to address some of the theories before we get into this. I will say my list hasn't really changed since 2 months ago. I actually kind of wrote this list in my head a few days after seeing The Force Awakens, and it hasn't really changed that much. There's been a few things that have come out since, and also just thinking about it and kind of researching it a little bit and getting all the facts straight. I've written down notes. Real nerd right here. But the theories are that she could be Obi-Wan Kenobi's daughter. Strike that off the list straight away. Impossible. A more credible one is that she could be Obi-Wan Kenobi's granddaughter and that she is a Kenobi. But the things that people point to that link her to Obi-Wan are kind of spurious. You know, oh, she's got the same kind of clothes. It's standard Jedi garb, you know, it doesn't really fit to me. And then, of course, oh, she has a British accent. Well, then she must be a Kenobi. I don't really understand those reasons. But it still would change the landscape of the saga and would be more about the Kenobi family. And their involvement with the Skywalker family. But I don't know, I feel like it's still more about the Skywalkers, and I'll get into that later on. I don't really hold any weight behind the Kenobi theory. Then we have the theory that Rey is actually Anakin reincarnated. Moving swiftly on. There's also the main one that people think, outside of it being, you know, her being Luke's daughter, is the fact that she is Han and Leia's daughter. I'll get into that a little bit later on. But I'd say in December, my belief that she was Luke's daughter was about 95%. I'm now at about 99.9%. I think there's a slight outside chance, a slight probability that she may not be Luke's daughter, but I just don't see it. And I'm about to tell you why. I'm going to give you 20 reasons why, and after that I'll give you 5 more reasons that aren't really concrete enough to include in the list, but things I thought would be interesting to talk about anyway. So I'm going to throw everything into this video. Let's just get straight into it. Let me open my notes up. Here we go. Number 1. Rey has grown up on a desolate planet with seemingly no way out, no way forward, much like her father before her, and much like her grandfather before him. Anakin Skywalker grew up a slave on a desert planet with, you know, no prospect of having a life in his future. Luke Skywalker, Anakin's son, lived on a desert planet, the same desert planet, in fact, Tatooine, with seemingly no real future. His friends were going off and joining the rebellion. He was, you know, trying to join an academy, but he was being stuck back on the farm. Again, not much of a future it seemed, and he was being held back. Rey lives on a desolate planet in Jakku, very similar to Tatooine, but not just the fact that it's a desert planet, but the fact that she is living with no real prospects for the future. And I would say that she is the Skywalker who has the roughest beginning and origin of everyone. You know, I mean, Anakin was a slave. You know, Luke was, you know, chained to his aunt and his uncle. He couldn't get free of them until, well, you know what happened with that. You know, and her great grandmother was a slave as well, Shmi Skywalker. But Rey, she doesn't have anyone. She doesn't have a family. You know, she doesn't have the luxury of having food and sitting at a dinner table like Anakin and Shmi did. She doesn't have the luxury of having work and stuff like that is reliable and you know, a family like Luke did with his aunt and his uncle. She has nothing. She is literally living meal by meal, and you know, it's barely scraping by. So I just had to turn the sound on my phone off. So, you know, she has had the roughest beginning of any Skywalker, and to me, that's just showing the progression. It's the theme, the motif of this circular thing of life repeating itself throughout the Skywalker family, but also in an evolutionary way, where it's, you know, it's changing. It's not completely the same. It's a bit different, and to me, it's just that thematic through line of growing up in this kind of isolation, but more about the fact of growing up in a state of mind, a state of life where the future really holds nothing for you, and then they get taken off on a grand adventure. Number 2. Clear my notifications because they're getting in the way. The X-Wing pilot's helmet that she has, and she puts on her head when she's sitting outside the AT-AT that she lives inside, and she puts it on and stuff, and it's actually, if you've read one of the books, it's the pilot of, the helmet of a pilot, a woman who was a rebel, and her last name was Rey, or at least it's spelled R-A-E-H. So there's speculation then, is that where Rey named herself? I don't know. I have theories about that, but that's for another time or for later on in the video. So we see that she's collected this X-Wing pilot helmet, and also she's made this pilot doll inside her home. In the book, Rey's Survival Guide, we learn that she does this because she imagines herself going off on adventures as a rebel with this Rey woman, and she built the little doll to represent her and stuff. But it's also just a nice little kind of hidden message there, maybe. You know, it's a pilot helmet that looks very similar to the one her father wore in The Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope, and also, you know, just the doll of a rebel pilot just seems very reminiscent of Luke. But that's not really like a huge reason, but I still think it's there as more of a kind of just a little hint there, just a little tease, a little Easter egg for the fans there, in terms of, you know, if you're thinking, is she Luke's daughter? Well, just have a look at that. I don't know. I think that's definitely there for a reason. But I agree that it's not like a big point. And some of these are big, some of these aren't. I'm going through the film chronologically, so it's going to range from kind of certainty, I think. So, yeah, okay. Number 3, she's a great pilot. She's a fantastic pilot who'd never really flown a ship like the Falcon before, which she says afterwards when they escape Jakku, that she's never flown a ship that big before. Obviously, it indicates her kind of affinity with the Force. But again, it mirrors the journey of her father and her grandfather. Anakin, again, broke free of this, again, desolate life, and went on an adventure, and was a great pilot who blew up this big ship. Then we have Luke, his son, goes off on an adventure, breaks free from this kind of you know, bleak life, and saves the galaxy by piloting this X-Wing to perfection to destroy this ship. And while Rey doesn't have a bigger moment as that in The Force Awakens, she still pilots the Falcon out of Jakku, away from two TIE fighters, and basically secures the rights to her freedom, basically, going off on this adventure. And people have said, oh, I'm not going to get into criticisms, by the way, of Rey. I'm not going to get into the whole Mary Sue bullshit because I don't agree with it whatsoever. She has flaws, she isn't perfect, she does struggle a hell of a lot, and people who say, oh, it's so unrealistic that she was able to fly the Falcon so perfectly. Did you see the bit where she was skidding it across the fucking desert? I mean, do people watch these films and actually, I don't know, I feel like people make too many snap judgments without looking at all the facts. She doesn't fly it perfectly, but she damn near flew it perfectly. And obviously that's again through the Force, but also again, it's very reminiscent of her lineage and her family. Number 4, after Rey and Finn meet Han, Snoke senses an awakening. He says to Kylo, he says, there's been an awakening, have you felt it? And this scene comes right after the scene where Rey saves Finn by pressing the button that closes the ship door to save him from a Rathtar. And I believe this was the beginning of her actually starting to use her powers with the Force. Obviously, it happened when she was flying the Falcon, and that kind of augmented things in terms of it helped her fly better, reflexes. The same with Anakin. You know, Anakin was a kid, he didn't know he had anything to do with the Force, but he was a great pod racing pilot because he had those reflexes that came through the Force, his power with the Force. The same with Rey. But when she was looking at the door thing, she's waiting, she shuts it, she did it perfectly, you know, and then she's like, oh, that was lucky. And after that scene, that's when Snoke says there's been an awakening. Now, it could have been that moment where she kind of used the Force a little bit. It could have been when she flew the Falcon and she was starting to use the Force. It could have been when she heard about Luke Skywalker. And within her mind, she's thinking about that, and that's awakening something. I believe that she is the key to the awakening, and so, yeah, I just think that, again, is key to the fact that she is Luke's daughter, because she is that Skywalker that is like Luke before her, like Anakin before him. It was extremely powerful in the Force, enough to create this awakening that people can feel, you know, on the other side of the galaxy. Number 5, the lightsaber. It calls to her. Why? It was presumably built by Anakin, I'm assuming, and then was owned by Luke. It's the Skywalker lightsaber. It called to her. She heard it. You know, she touched it. She got the vision. There we go. Simple enough. Number 6, the vision. Much like what happened with Luke in Empire Strikes Back, he had a vision that guides her on her journey. He saw Vader, it told him something. She saw this vision, it told her something. Same as her father before her. Number 7, the vision, some people say it showed the history of the lightsaber, like we're seeing the lightsaber's memories. I don't believe that. It's the 2 biggest moments of tragedy in Luke's life. Two of, anyway. Because she sees the moment where, you know, Luke and Vader are dueling on Bespin. She sees her father and her grandfather fighting, and she sees the moment where Luke finds out that I mean, obviously she doesn't see the whole scene, but we hear Luke screaming, "No!" We hear that moment of tragedy in Luke's life. We then go to another tragedy in his life, the massacre at the Jedi Academy, and we see him next to R2-D2. It seems like there's a burning, you know, perhaps a pyre over all the bodies, we don't know, but, you know, it shows those tragedies in Luke's life, and it also shows the biggest tragedy in her life, you know, when she was left alone. And then we see a future in the forest with Kylo and Obi-Wan calling out to her. All of this to me just screams the fact that she is very much a part of the Skywalker story. Number 8, Maz's words. Whomever you're waiting for on Jakku, they're never coming back, but there's someone who still could. And Rey says, with tears streaming down her face, Luke? Now why would she say that? Is she saying, wait, Luke? He could be a potential father figure in the future, but he's not actually my father? No. Luke is my father? Luke Skywalker's my father? I mean, it's all there. It's all there. Maz, again, she says, the longing you seek is not behind you, it is ahead. Meaning, Luke's not going to come to you. You're going to have to go to him. You're going to have to find your father. Number 9, like her father before her, Rey calls the Skywalker saber to her hand using the Force in a moment of mortal peril where the lightsaber was resting in a mound of snow. It's like Excalibur. She could pull it out and call it to her. She's the chosen one, just like Anakin was, just like Luke was. There is that connection there with that lightsaber and the Skywalker family. And again, much like Empire Strikes Back, Luke called that very same lightsaber to his hand from a mound of snow to save his life. And that's exactly what she did. Again, it's just these links, these Easter eggs that tie everything together. It's the way these stories work. Where are we? Number 10, her strong affinity with the Force. You know, who do we know in the Star Wars universe who are unnaturally powerful? Anakin and Luke. Anakin was born out of the Force, and in the trailer, the Force is strong in my family. In my family. Why would we have a trailer for The Force Awakens where Luke Skywalker is saying, the Force is strong in my family. My father has it. My sister has it. You have that power too. Is he talking to Ben? No, he's not talking to Ben. Is he talking to Finn? No, he's not talking to Finn. I mean, he's not talking to anyone. Obviously, it's a trailer and they use the audio from the Return of the Jedi. But still, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. And, you know, obviously there are other strong Force users like Obi-Wan and Yoda, but I just feel like her, you know, ridiculous ability with the Force comes from the fact that she is directly from the line of Skywalkers. Number 11, the Leia and Rey hug. Their first time meeting. Leia and Rey at the end of the film when she gets off the Falcon after the whole Starkiller base has been destroyed. They don't say anything to each other. There's no words. And it's an emotional, warm hug. By this point, you know, Rey has let the Force in. You know, especially when she was holding the saber and she was clashing with Kylo, and she closed her eyes and she let the Force into herself, and that's how she forced him back, and how she ultimately defeated him, which a lot of people have a problem with, but that's a whole other video. So at this point, does she now know that Leia is her aunt? Does she sense that? Clearly, Leia senses something, and you know, they don't say anything. They just hug. It's a knowing hug, and they're both emotional. It seems like Leia is comforting Rey more than Rey is comforting Leia. Very interesting, and to me, again, another, for me, surefire sign she's Luke's daughter. 13, before they land on the planet Ahch-To at the end of the film when they go to meet Luke, Chewie, he gives Rey this look. It's kind of like, you know, just kind of gives her this little slight look. I mean, why would that be there? He's giving her this apprehensive look. Why would he do that? If he had nothing, if he knew nothing about it, why would he be apprehensive about it? Or why would he just be giving her a look? It's just that little detail that to me says that Chewie knows, that Leia's told him, or he knew from the past, and he's like, how's she going to handle this? She's going to see her dad, you know. I'm sure that is there for a reason. Number 14, her outfit. at the end of the film mirrors Luke's from Empire. The grey tunic, even the collar, is similar. It's like a shoulderless, armless, female cosplay of Luke's Empire Strikes Back outfit. It really is, and I feel like it's just more fun clues hidden in plain sight. Just look at her outfit at the end of the film next time you see it. It looks very, very reminiscent of Luke's Empire Strikes Back outfit when he lands on Dagobah, and throughout the film actually, until the very end. Number 15, her outfit in general is very reminiscent of Luke. Not in a blatantly obvious way, but just highly reminiscent. Just that, again, it reminds me of his white outfit from the first Star Wars film, throughout most of that film. Not the same colour, obviously. His is more white, hers is more grey. But I mean, it just, there's these links, these visual links, like her walking off with BB-8. It's not the same as the kind of the twin sunset moment, but it just looks thematically similar. You look at pictures; they have pictures lined up, Anakin, Luke, and Rey, like looking off into the distance, and it's all lined. It just looks so perfectly fit. Again, it's just all these things you got to kind of put together. Number 17. The trilogy is about the Skywalker family. Kathleen Kennedy said this, and she said that moving forward, this trilogy is about the Skywalker legacy, the Skywalker saga. Well, Kylo is a Skywalker. He's a Solo, but he's from the Skywalker family. Ben Solo is kind of a Skywalker. We don't know if he's taken the Skywalker name. I doubt he has. I'm sure that his true name is Ben Solo, or maybe it's Ben Solo Organa Skywalker. I don't know. But the thing is, I don't know, because there's lots of ways you can see this. But I just think Rey is the main character of the film. Rey is the main character of The Force Awakens, the main character of the trilogy. And the trilogy is about the Skywalkers. There you go. I mean, Luke is not going to be a main character throughout the next two films. He's going to be a big part of it, but he's not going to be your lead character. It's all there. It's all there. There is a chance that Kylo could turn to the good side, and in the book they talk about how Snoke saw that Ben had this unnatural kind of ability to be strong in both the light and dark, like equally as strong in the light and dark side of the Force. That's in the novelization. But again, we don't know. But I think there's definitely something to be said about that. Kathleen Kennedy, the producer of these films, the president of Lucasfilm, said this trilogy is about the Skywalkers. Rey is the main character. She is a Skywalker. Number 17. Because her last name's never revealed. The Kenobi theory is just too much of a stretch for me. And she's not a Solo. Because Han has no reaction to seeing her. Hearing her name, nothing. He's like, Rey. No reaction. Now, Leia could have been pregnant when Han left, when Ben went off to train with Luke. But to not cover Leia being reunited with her daughter at the end, and just having them hug, to me, destroys any theory that she's Leia's daughter. Even if Leia thought that Rey, her daughter, was gone and dead or whatever, she would sense that as soon as she walked off that Falcon, and Leia would not be like, come give Mum a hug. She'd be tearing up. She'd be like, I haven't seen my daughter in 10 years, And she's lamenting the loss of her son. She's like, if you see our son, bring him back, Surely at that moment where Han's going off to maybe, this perilous situation, surely she would say, okay, Han, you got a daughter. I just don't buy it. I just do not buy it because of those reasons. Now, I am treating this as reading the story as if it's fact and it's a real thing, because obviously the writers could have just missed this little detail and it won't match up later on. But I don't think that they would be that careless. So she can only be a Skywalker, and so she can only be Luke's because of this. I just don't believe she's Han and Leia's. I know people want to believe the Kylo and Rey brother-sister story, but I think it still works if they're cousins. Number 18, in the novelization, when Kylo sees Rey take the saber at the end, he says, "So it is you." Remember, this comes from an earlier version of the script, so she's who? His cousin, right? We'll see, we'll see. Number 19. When Rey calls a lightsaber to her hand, the binary sunset. The music we first hear when Luke is looking out to the twin suns on Tatooine in the very first Star Wars movie. A theme that has come to represent the Force, but is undoubtedly Luke's theme. Plays in full flow, unchanged from A New Hope, note for note. She is the next New Hope. She is Luke Skywalker's daughter. That is the moment. that is the absolute moment right there, because she pulls the lightsaber with her hand and it plays Luke's theme. If it played Leia's theme, okay, I'd be a bit more uncertain, but it plays Luke's theme. And it's not just because of the lightsaber. It's all there. It's all there. Alright. Now finally, number 20, the undisputable for me, the knockout blow, the final cast iron blow that to me just says it all. People are like, oh, you know, who's a father, who's her parents and stuff. They answered it in the film. They answered it in the film as far as I'm concerned. The meeting between Luke and Rey at the end of the film. It is positively loaded. It is emotional. And how can I describe this? We see Rey walk up. She sees Luke. His back turned to her. He lifts his head up. He turns around. He unveils his robe. And he looks at her with this look of confusion on his face. It's like, am I really seeing a person in front of me? Perhaps he must have sensed that a ship had landed. Perhaps he already sensed that Rey was coming. Or that someone was coming. But still, he seems almost amazed that anyone is standing in front of him. How long has it been since he's seen anyone? And she looks at him. She pulls the lightsaber out and she holds it out. Not as a symbol of, you know, here's your lightsaber back, but a symbol of come back. Come back to us. Come and help the galaxy. He looks at her, he sees the lightsaber, his jaw sets. He looks angry. He looks annoyed. She's bringing his past back to him, back to haunt him. The fact that he tried to train Ben, his nephew, and he failed. Ben turned to the dark side. He massacred all of the Jedi in the Academy. Presumably, maybe he even massacred and killed Luke's wife, Luke's partner, Rey's mother. He feels like he's failed. He has failed not only all these kids, these young people who are training to be Jedi, who had trusted him with their lives, but he has failed his nephew, he has failed his brother-in-law, his best friend, he has failed his sister, he has failed his family. And that is why he left. And Rey's holding out this lightsaber, and it is a symbol of all of that, the past. And he doesn't like that. And then she gets emotional. Rey's resolve begins to fade, and we see in her eyes her face the slightest tremble as she holds out the saber. She gets emotional. Maybe she knows who's standing in front of her. Maybe she knows that's her father. Maybe she wants to believe it. Maybe she can't believe it, but the possibility is there. Maybe she can sense it. But then her face sets too, much like her father. Her resolve comes back in, and she holds it out, defiantly. And that's when Luke's resolve drops. His eyes filled with tears, a look of regret on his face, and the film ends. Right. Beautiful ending. That is not a meeting between a scavenger girl and this mythical figure, Luke Skywalker. It is not a meeting between the possible savior of the galaxy with this new hope for the galaxy. Two strong Jedi. It is absolutely a reunion between a father and a daughter. Done. There we go. That's it. That's it to me. Just look at. I've seen the film 4 times. I have downloaded and legally watched the ending of the film about 20 more times. I'm going to buy the film probably at least more than twice in my life. So I don't feel bad in the slightest. There you go. Those are my 20 reasons. There's other things. There's the fact that Kylo says, I can see that when you can't sleep at night, you dream of an island and an ocean. And of course, that's her seeing the future, or is it her seeing, I don't know. We don't know about that. That's just the kind of spurious thing. Snoke's reaction to Kylo when Kylo says that she's untrained but stronger than she knows, and I can't get into her head. And Snoke's like, I can't believe this, even you, and all this. But then at the end of that scene, Snoke says, if what you say about this girl is true, bring her to me. Now we jump into that scene mid conversation. We don't see Kylo walk in and say, oh, I can't get anything out of her. We join mid scene. Perhaps he said, I think it's Luke's daughter, or perhaps he said, I think that she is my cousin. I don't know. But again, it could just be a fact of Snoke saying, you know, okay, well, if you're saying about this girl, if what you're saying about this girl is true, aka you can't break through her mind, then bring her to me. But it could just be that. The Jedi mind trick, I feel like it's something Luke taught her at a very young age, perhaps even told her a story about it maybe instead of teaching her, and it was a subconscious memory creeping through. It's too on point for her to just think to try it, and I doubt that the Jakku people told her about it. Then there's just the rich story potential of the two Skywalker grandchildren. It's just too good to pass up. George's original idea was about the grandkids of Anakin, plural, the grandchildren. He even asked JJ in an online video, so what happens to Anakin's grandkids? Daisy Ridley also said in an interview she knew who Rey's parents were and that the main question would be answered in Episode 7, and I believe that. Now, she could have said that interview before everything was finalised, they decided not to reveal it, I don't know. And then finally, I believe that Luke is standing next to a grave. I would imagine it is of his wife, a partner, or even Rey herself. For all the finer details, I have no clue. I don't have an overall theory about everything like that. There's many ways it could go, and as far as Episode 8 and 9, what's going to happen in those films, I've got no idea. Did Luke know she was still alive? Did he leave her on Jakku? In the novelization, she hears a voice, one voice, comforting her before leaving her in a parent-like soothing way that I wouldn't believe would come from Kylo, and that's a novelization. I think it's something like, I'll come back, sweetheart, or something like that. There's the grave, you know. It could be Rey's. It could be that he didn't know that his daughter survived. That is an absolute possibility. We just don't know. And I feel like, if you watch the end of the film, there's a stone next to him on the left, right next to him, sticking out of the ground. Looks like a grave. Now, it could just be a serendipitous moment where there just happens to be a rock-like grave next to him in the shot, but I think there might be a grave there. I'm more leaning towards it being his wife's, or his partner, Rey's mother, but it would be even more interesting if it was Rey's. Imagine that, Episode 8 opens up, she walks up to him and she's like, Luke? And he says nothing, and she looks down next to him and it just says Rey Skywalker. Bit cheesy, and it probably won't happen, but I mean, there's so many ways they could go with it. And I think it makes the ending even more emotional if Luke kind of thought that she was dead. Because then he would be completely shut off. He might even have used the Force to literally switch himself off, to block out everything. He's that powerful, he could do that. Block his mind and not receive anything from the Force anymore. And just live as a hermit, you know, and it seems to be the case that that's what he's doing. And it lends more credibility to the fact that he left Rey to begin with. Now, I still think it's more than plausible that he left Rey because of his failure with Ben. And the fact that Ben killed everyone. And he feels like, I can't let that happen to my daughter. And it's my fault, so I can't be with her. I feel like that's totally plausible for him to go away and leave everything behind. But it's even more emotional if he thinks that she is dead. Because you look at his face there, and it's almost like he can't believe that anyone is standing in front of him, but perhaps he can't believe that this could be his daughter right there, you know, and that the tears welling up in his face at the end. It's just, she's his daughter, I'm sorry, you know, and that's about it really. That's pretty much about it. There's probably more I could probably say about it, but I think I've rambled on for far enough. But those are my 20 solid reasons, I think, and then a few more that I think lend a bit more to it, to flesh it out a little bit. But there's all these things that just point towards it. And, you know, you go back a year and a half before The Force Awakens came out, I said in the road to Episode 7, Han is going to die. 3 months before The Force Awakens, I said in a video, Han is going to die, Kylo's going to be Han and Leia's son, and Rey's going to be Luke's daughter. And that happened to be true. Anyway, right, I'm just saying I'm pretty good at guessing these things, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave your thoughts down below. Remember, it's just an opinion, and I'll see you in the next one.